Welcome back to another episode of Highside, Lowside. I am your host, Spurgeon Dunbar, and today I am joined by Patrick Garvin, who is filling the shoes of Zach Kortz, who is still recovering from a motorcycle accident. And we are back with another edition of the motorcycle dating game. We've got a little bit of something for everyone. We've got adventure bikes, sport bikes, cruisers, touring bikes. We've got children. We've got adults. We've also got a Harley Davidson Dragon-ster. You heard me right, as well as breaking down some of the myths around carburetor maintenance versus fuel injection, all that and much, much more in today's episode. However, we first need a word from our sponsor, Motul.
Motul is a longtime supporter of Highside, Lowside, and can support just about any of your lubrication and cleaning needs as well. With engine oil for 2-strokes and 4-strokes, chain cleaner and lube for on-road and off-road applications, and dozens more products to keep your machines clean and running smooth. Plus, a little bit of every dollar you spend on Motul products at RevZilla.com goes into producing Highside, Lowside. To learn more about the Motul catalog, you can go to RevZilla.com/Motul. That's RevZilla.com/MOTUL.
And while you're over there on RevZilla.com, make sure you check out the RPM program. That's the Riders Preferred Membership Program, now only $39.99 a year. You get all kinds of discounts on motorcycle gear and apparel. You get $15 for just signing up, free 2-day shipping, concierge service, and it works across all of RevZilla's sister brands. That means J&P Cycles, Cycle Gear, RevZilla, and Rever. To learn more about all the benefits of the RPM program, head over to RevZilla.com/RPM. That's RevZilla.com/RPM. Now, on with the show. All right, so a motorcycle dating game sans Zach Kortz. Zach is still in the men, but we are joined by Patrick Garvin. Patrick, thank you for subbing in today as we try to match lovers with their motorcycles.
Well, thanks for having me. I'll do my best to fill Mr. Kortz's shoes. I'm no Chuck Woolery, but I'll do my best.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. For the listeners out there, we were going through pre-pro, and Patrick was getting pretty fired up on some of the listeners that we have today. Just a reminder, as we're going through this, the listeners that we will discuss today are Highside, Lowside listeners that have written in and have given us, their current situation in riding and what they're looking for in another motorcycle. But before we jump into that, we do have an online find. This is an online find that producer Chase came up with for a little bit of a warm up here. And Patrick, he geared it towards you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to put the picture up on screen. We're looking at a 1994 Harley Davidson FLHTC, nicknamed the Pink Dragon. Patrick, what are we looking at here? And do you have $15,000 for this motorcycle?
I do not. So I'm pretty sure I've seen this bike in person before. Sometimes these events and things kind of all run together, the big the Sturgis Rally in Daytona, but I swear I've seen this bike before.
I figure if anybody saw this in person, it would probably be at either Sturgis or Bike Week, like somewhere where you might have been.
Well, if you own this bike and you've built this into this, machine, you're going to take it somewhere. You're not going to keep this one in your garage, right? This isn't just for you. No. This is for everybody else too.
This is for everybody else.
Yeah. So this is one of those things, like a long time ago I learned, especially I think the longer you're around motorcycles, and especially like you and I, we get our hands on a lot of bikes for whatever reason. We ride a lot of motorcycles. You actually start to narrow down what you like in a motorcycle. You appreciate other things, but you really narrow down what you like in a motorcycle. And so what I've learned over the years is to appreciate the build and the effort that goes into a motorcycle, maybe not that actual motorcycle itself. And this is one of those things. Somebody has put a lot of effort and a lot of work into doing this, and I can appreciate that.
But this is for a very specific audience, right? Like, for those of you listening that maybe aren't looking at the photos, it is a Dragon. They spent a lot of time and effort on the body work, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's a bagger. It's a Harley bagger that's got a Dragon morphed into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen the Never-Ending Story, it kind of looks like you're riding. No, I guess that was a flying dog, right? That wasn't really technically a dragon, I guess.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about this is like, this isn't like, you don't buy that off the shelf.
Yeah.
You went to great lengths. So somebody had to have a background in like fiberglass or modeling or something, right?
So here's an interesting piece from the seller's description. This is my first time reading the actual seller's description, but this is a piece of rideable art, which was purchased by me with 350 miles on the clock. It has won awards at Sturgis, Daytona, and Bike Week in Germany. So it is possible, Patrick, that you have seen this bike in person.
Pretty sure that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
This also reminds me, this is another like rally specific. This guy's from Colorado, I believe. You ever heard of the
No, he's
Dragon?
from Illinois.
No, the guy I'm going to talk about, Dragon Man. Have you ever heard of Dragon
Yeah.
Man?
I have not, no.
It's another dragon themed motorcycle that has like 700 guns mounted to it, I think, or something. It's ridiculous. I don't know. The dragon thing is like also, what's the movie? Two Dragons. What am I thinking of? Will Ferrell.
Two Dragons?
Yeah, he goes to visit. Will Ferrell has a cameo in a movie. Is it Starsky and Hutch?
I'm waiting for producer Chase to send us a message here because he's the movie buff.
Is it Starsky and Hutch where they go and Will Ferrell is Starsky and Hutch.
Starsky and Hutch.
And they need information out of Will Ferrell's character. And Will Ferrell's all into dragons, and he's like, I'm not gonna lie to you here. He goes,
I was thinking of like something like full on like in a dragon fantasy. You're talking about the scene and start.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm
not gonna lie to you, it's gonna get weird.
I'm with you.
Two dragons.
I'm with you. Two dragons. Well, so it sounds like Patrick doesn't have $15,000 laying around that he wants to invest in a dragon bagger. But for those of you out there that are watching the podcast, listening to the podcast, at the time of recording, this is still up for sale. So if you have ever dreamt of riding a dragon, you could make your dream a reality for $15,000 in Antioch, Illinois.
Save you a lot of build time. Fast track you right to that dragon.
There you go. And it sounds like it's already an award winner, so you can ride it right to Daytona Bike Week this winter.
If you buy this bike, come find me. I'll be at both JMP locations during Daytona and Sturgis. I want a picture.
Well, speaking of bike builds, Patrick, you are currently working on a little build yourself for Daytona, are you not?
Yes, we are building a Milwaukee Twins bike, and it's another chopper. I do love building choppers, and we built the Cherry Bomb chopper a couple years ago. People may have seen that video. This will be kind of similar but different to that. Yeah, I do. I'm a sucker for a chopper.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing that one come together. You got a few months to get this done. Are you feeling any anxiety at this point, or you're pretty much always?
You can't have enough time.
We will definitely look forward to seeing more of what you've got in store as it comes together. But for right now, we're gonna make some listeners' dreams come true as we match them up with their perfect motorcycle. So just a reminder, all the contestants today on the Moto Dating Game, as we like to call it, are listeners like yourself from out there in the audience. They filled out a bike recommendation profile. We put all the random names in a hat. We had, I think it was something like over 30 different contestants that were trying to win, and we've narrowed it down to our top 6 plus potentially a bonus 7. And I would just like to say at the start of this, if any of you out there are interested in having Zach or Patrick or whoever help pick your next motorcycle, you can always shoot an email to Highside, Lowside at RevZilla.com. Let us know that you are interested in being a contestant on the Motorcycle Dating Game, and producer Chase will send you all you need to know should we decide to do this again. This is not the first time we've done it, but this is the first time that we are doing it solo with Patrick Garvin. Patrick, the first contestant is Jay. Why don't you give us a little bit of his personal information?
So Jay is 5'6", 140 pounds. The reason, obviously that's going to be important. Size of the person here. Myself being basically the same height as Jay. I wish I was 140 pounds. I'd be much faster.
Me too. I think I was faster. 140 pounds when I was in 6th grade. Yeah. So good on you, Jay.
So Jay is it's 30-inch inseam. He says without boots. That's worth taking into consideration. Father of 2. He says he rides dirt with the older one. Younger one seems to be interested in bikes. Says bike every time he sees one. So great parenting out of Jay there, getting those kids involved in motorcycles. But he rides dirt, so he obviously has some skill set and background. And he also mentions he's into bonsai trees, which
he's balancing out the aggression of ripping on dirt bikes with a little bonsai action. A little Mr. Miyagi. If
that really caught my eye because as a guy who's tried to grow and groom a bonsai tree and failed spectacularly, I
thought you were going to say you're trying to grow and groom other plants in your backyard. I'm like, Patrick, come on. This is a family friendly podcast.
No, I did the bonsai attempt years ago. It looked so cool and I failed miserably. So good on you, Jay.
I think like the whole trick of and this is not a bonsai tree podcast, but I believe like the whole trick of bonsai is like super like small snips, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go too aggressive. So
yeah, I mean, so but maybe that gives us a little bit of a peek.
There's a yin and yang involved here with Jay.
Yeah, totally. He's from New Mexico. Budget $15,000 to $25,000. Now he does have some wrenching experience, engine swaps, fork rebuilds, valve adjustments. So this is a mechanically inclined person.
10 years of riding experience. Yep. A pretty good budget to spend, $15,000 to $25,000. And here's the interesting thing about Jay. Jay is a heavy commuter. Mm-hmm. He's looking for a bike that's going to do a 160-mile round trip commute 2 days a week with about 100 miles of twisties thrown in. He does give us some considerations. Mm-hmm. He's thinking, he's thinking he might be, relegated to a Goldwing or a GS from BMW before he's ready. He doesn't know exactly what he's looking for, but he is interested in something that's around 150 horsepower that also has shaft drive and cruise control, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, so if I would have ridden just the considerations before anything else about Jay, I would have assumed he was a 65-year-old man.
I want a GSA or a Goldwing. I want 150 horsepower and a shaft drive with cruise control.
Yeah, I mean, no knock on a GSA or a Goldwing. Obviously, fantastic motorcycles, but I mean, that's a poke for a commute, right? 160 miles round trip.
And I think the interesting here is the shaft drive, right? Because I was immediately thinking, there's a multi-strata, there is an S1000 XR.
Yep.
But those are not. Well, so that is the Concourse shaft drive, or is that's chain drive, right?
But when I was reading into the not shaft drive, no, Concourse is not shaft drive. When I was just kind of like reading into the style of bike, I was like, well, you can get kind of like those are both very large. Yeah. As far as like just they're like I said, they're great motorcycles. When you get the thing about a Goldwing is when you get on it, it feels like it loses half its weight, right? So like, but they're big bikes, even, just to have in your garage, it takes up a lot of space. So my thoughts kind of immediately went to like more svelte versions of those. What about, is ST1300 shaft drive? I'm not sure on that.
I feel like an ST1300 is chain drive. I'm looking it up right now because that's a great recommendation, but that's not going to have electronic cruise control for him. So for those of you listening, an ST1300 is a Honda. It's basically like it's kind of like smaller than a Goldwing. It's a V4. They don't make it anymore. Yeah, it's a Goldwing Light. But I don't remember if that was shaft drive or not.
I don't either. And I have a buddy that has one. So I have a buddy, Joe Sparrow, who had a Goldwing with 500
shaft drive, five-speed shaft drive.
Oh, There we go. So Joe's Goldwing had 598,000 miles on it. He had an 02, and when it finally let go, he went to an ST1300.
Yeah.
Which made me think of that.
I just don't think I don't think that's going to have cruise control.
Yeah, you might be right. And I with a 160 mile round trip, cruise would be nice.
All right, so let's think about this strategically. What about, so let's look at BMW. So when I'm thinking shaft drive, listen, Jay, we're not going to put you on a Goldwing. We're not going to put you on a GSA. There's got to be something. There's going to be something sportier that we can get you. What about the R? I don't know if it's the R1300 yet, but the R1250 RS. Is that do they make that? I'm thinking if that's a 1300 at this point, because I know that everything's getting shifted over. It is. All right, so here we go. A R1300 RS, 1300 cc's, 145 horsepower. It's close, right? I know you're looking for 150 plus, but like let's give us, let's be a little bit lenient here if you want the shaft drive. I can't think of anything else that's going to give him a solid sporty experience for the 100 miles of twisties that he's doing, while also giving him a shaft drive. What am I missing with a shaft drive other than like a Goldwing?
I don't. I feel like you either outside of a Goldwing. I'm just like you. If shaft drive is a deal breaker, you pretty much have to stay in that BMW family.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's. Listen, for the listeners out there that might be screaming at their stereo speakers. I am racking my brain here in real time to think of anything that would be better than an R1300 RS to get Jay away from, the GS, what Goldwing type.
It's funny when he mentioned Goldwing, but he didn't mention the K1600.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But but let me ask you a question. So I've ridden the K1600. I've ridden a Goldwing. I've ridden an R1250 RS. If I'm doing miles down the highway, but I'm also looking for a sporty experience through 100 miles of twisties a week. Not that the K1600 couldn't do it, or the GS or the Goldwing couldn't do it. They could, but I just would feel like I would probably want something a little on the sportier side.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you totally. There is the GT model of the K1600, which is basically like the street glide, I guess, version. If you're talking to a cruiser guy like me, no tour pack, bags only. It's still a decently sized bike. But if I'm looking at Goldwings, I'm looking at K1600s too. But I
agree with you. I agree with you. No, I think, and maybe that's the compromise of something a little bit, on the more aggressive side there. I just feel like, Jay, you're 30 years old. Mm-hmm. You are someone that, you got a father or two. I just would hate to see you, on a Goldwing before your time, my friend.
I mean, just think about picking one of your young children up from school on a Goldwing and the harassment the other kids are going to give those. I mean,
but if you pick those kids up on an R1300 RS, whew,
way cooler.
Other dads are stopping to stare, thinking, "What kind of a cool dad are you?"
You're going to intimidate the other dads in the school pickup lane.
Well, for what it's worth, Jay. We actually, on the last episode, Lance and I gave some advice to a young man in Italy about a bike recommendation. He actually reached out and said, "Hey, I hope that I didn't disappoint you and Lance, but I didn't go with the bigger scrambler. I didn't go with the smaller one. I found an older one that was kind of in the middle." I said, "No, I think it's one thing for us to give advice, but it's another thing for, riders to go out and actually put their asses in seats and 100%. Try to find some time to see what fits them the best." I would say, Jay, you threw considerations out of a Goldwing, of a GS. Both of those are excellent options for you to consider. Patrick's option for a K1600, that's another great option for you to consider. And I would definitely take a look at a R1300 RS. I've done lots of highway miles with that, and I have also done lots of twisties with that. And I think that the previous generation, I think that's a bike that should at least be one that you throw your leg over.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's something to be said. I mean, the most important thing I think you said there is if you can get your butt into the saddle of these things, even for a quick test drive, I think that's going to really help make your decision, because you and I both know, we've been on bikes for not very long before, and you'd be like, oh, like the handlebar position on this or the foot peg position, this ain't going to work. So you'll know right away. If you can throw a leg over those things, it's going to help make your decision.
Well, we are going to, hopefully, Jay, we've steered you in some kind of a direction. And we are now going to move on to Arturo. Arturo is 39 years old, 6'1", weighs in at 250 pounds, with a 32-inch inseam, manufacturing engineer by day, motorcyclist by weekend and evenings. Some fun facts for Arturo is that he recently moved to York, PA, only a few hours away from where I reside, has ridden the MA BDR, the Pennsylvania Wilds BDRX, and planning on riding the Northeast BDR next year on either his XR 650L or a KLX 300. So it sounds like Arturo is already pretty well steeped in like dual sport riding, been riding for 13 years, has owned a slew of bikes, including a Ninja 500, a ZX6R, an SV650, a ZX12R, an Africa Twin. He now owns a 1998 Sportster, an XR 650L, and a KLX 300. So Arturo has been around the block and is got some decent wrenching experience with rebuilding engines on dirt bikes and such. So Patrick, what is the interesting little flip of the script here for Arturo?
Well, I think he's fairly diverse in his motorcycle ownership there, and Arturo and I have a couple of things in common. I have also owned a ZX12R and many Sportsters. My love of the XL based platform is known far and wide. So he said he's rebuilt an XR 650L engine and transmission. So again, a pretty good wrench turner here. He does have some budget considerations, less than $7,000 American. But he said he would like to purchase a motorcycle in Europe and tour on it with his wife, import it back to PA using the 25-year rule. Now that is the biggest consideration, right? Like that really puts us in a box.
Exactly. So I think for the audience to understand this, if you're not familiar, if a vehicle is older than 25 years old, even if it was not originally imported into the United States, you have an easier time bringing it into the United States. Is why you can start to see, vintage cars and things. We see it a lot with vintage motorcycles too, with some of the work that our friend Abi does with iconic motorbikes, importing bikes from, Japan or other countries where they have cool stuff that they couldn't get originally in the United States, but now you can import them in.
Yeah. So he's really narrowed some things down there. And again, has to be comfortable for a pillion. So he's looking to have his wife tour with him. He's got a, $7,000. That's a decent budget, but it doesn't, it's not like we had Jay with a much, steeper budget there. So it puts us in a little bit of a box. He says he's looking at Super Tenere 750s, XRV 750 Africa Twin, Triumph Tiger 900, a DR 800, but he is open to a sport touring model. So honestly, what jumped off the list to me right there was the DR 800.
Well, I want to remind everybody that while 25 years sounds like a long time ago, that was really just the 2000, right? So really, we just need to find a bike from the late 1990s that could work for him.
Yeah, I mean,
and explain the first one that jumped off. Explain why that's interesting.
Just the versatility of the bike, right? Like availability of parts, stuff like that, models that have been made for a while, ease of working on it when you're over there, because like you are buying a, older motorcycle. So on something that's 25 years old, and while it's not really that long ago, those bikes are going to be prone to break more, right? They've just been around longer. They've been on the road longer. And so I'm going to look for a bike that, especially when I'm in another country, that I'm going to have access probably to more parts and things like that should something go wrong.
And you were saying the Africa Twin is the one that you were?
No, I was looking at the Suzuki DR 800.
Okay. And explain the Suzuki DR 800 for our audience.
It's something similar. So he's got experience with an XR 650. It's more, I would say similar to that bike than to like a Tiger 900. You know what I mean? It's a little more utilitarian, things like that. I think it'd probably be easier to work on than the Triumph, although.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question, Patrick. Are you putting your wife on the back of this bike?
That's the kicker. That's like, a Triumph Tiger 900, your passenger is probably going to be a lot happier.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that Arturo is looking for a bike that has a comfortable pillion seat because he's looking to tour around Europe with her on the back, and I'm trying to imagine the DR800 as a passenger carrier. Probably not as comfortable. I like, it's interesting because I agree with everything you were saying. I had a friend who had one of the original Tiger 900s. For those of you that are not familiar, look up the green one. I forget which crazy green color Triumph called it, but there's like a crazy green one. These are the Tigers that were made, I believe, in like 1999. They were the predecessor to what the Tiger became. And I have a buddy who, when I was living down in Tennessee, who had one with like 70,000 miles on it. And it was, just a bulletproof motorcycle. And the beauty of this, unlike the DR800, which I don't think was ever imported to the United States, the Tiger 900 was. So knowing that you're planning on bringing this bike back over, there would be a bike that you could have probably a hoot of a time on, riding around Europe, and then you should be able to bring it over and not have a hard time finding parts for it here in the United States.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to your point about having a passenger, I think those Tigers look cool too with those kind of goofy dual headlights. The one thing I like about that DR800, it's like the Katana version of a dirt bike. It's got that weird pointy front end on it, but to me that's also like a reason to bring it back over here, because then you have something else that nobody else has. And it's not like it's some collector's item, but it is cool and an oddity. But yeah, you're right about the passenger part of that DR. It's going to be probably a little more difficult with luggage and things like that than the Tiger would be.
And I don't want to naysay the idea of the Africa Twin. He was also looking at the XRV 750 Africa Twin, which is, roughly ran from like 89 to 2003. So you could find some of those, but like, I just feel like those are probably going to start getting pricey at this point, from a collectability standpoint. And I don't know what the prices are on those in Europe, but I do know that especially with the reintroduction of the Africa Twin, those original ones, started kind of creeping up in value.
Definitely. Again, I mean, honestly, the bikes he has listed, they all look really cool, especially when you're getting into that kind of like retro kind of looking, ADV bike. That Africa Twin has that like kind of crazy, like splattered paint job on it. Very, very retro. But I think you're right. I think you're probably going to run into those, being a little more pricey because of what they are and what people are doing with them. But if you could pick one of those up for the right price, again, parts are going to be available. It's a Honda. Probably nothing's going to go wrong with it ever. So I would just throw out there too.
And this is a bike that I probably, Zach's not here to stop me from talking about it, but you did say, that you are open, Arturo, to potentially a sport touring bike. Mm-hmm. And I would be remiss if I were not to bring up a Honda VFR. Because that is a bike through the mid 90s into 99. You have your pick of whether you want to go with an older 750 or if you want to get up into the 800, which ran through started basically in 98. And that would be a bike you could import back to the United States. You could probably find one for, $4,000 or $5,000. They're bulletproof, dependable. Your wife will be comfortable on the back, 100 horsepower sport touring machine, just a fun, cool motorcycle that's not going to give you any issues over there. And again, from a parts availability standpoint, you'd be able to import it back in the United States and have a good time with it.
Honestly, I think that's probably the best case scenario is the VFR. I mean, he said he was open to a sport tour. I mean, what are the real, how realistic is it that he's going to really be in the dirt outside of a gravel road when he's touring over there? It doesn't sound like he's taken some wild off-road adventure. So I agree with you. I think that might be the best choice is a VFR.
I understand, Arturo, that you are, and this is one of his considerations, I'm looking for a model that was not available stateside or had a very limited run and is at least 25 years old. So like, if you absolutely want something that was not available in the United States, then maybe the Africa Twin or the DR 800. I still think that if you are looking for something with a limited run that would still be pretty unique in the US, a Triumph Tiger 900 would be an excellent consideration for you. A VFR would be something that, probably the most vanilla of all of them. We didn't really talk about the Yamaha Super Tenere at all. And again, I think my only hesitation there is as the Africa Twin and the Tenere have come back around, there has just been some desirable price increases with these older models. Also, I just don't know the Super Tenere again. I'm sure it would be comfortable enough for a passenger, but that might be a consideration there, I suppose.
Yeah, and the other thing is, he currently owns a Sportster, an XR650, and a KLX 300. Another point to the VFR is like that's a style of bike you don't currently have at home.
Mm-hmm.
If you're bringing back a DR 800, it's basically it's very similar to the bikes you own as far as the XR and the Kawasaki. The VFR is going to give you another category of bike that you own. You have your cruiser, your Sportster, you have your two dirt bikes, then you would have that Sport Tour when you got back home.
All right, so Patrick, final pick for Arturo.
Honestly, I really like your VFR pick.
Okay, so Patrick's going to go with the VFR. I'm listen. Here's a guy that likes doing BDRs. Might want something a little bit bigger than his current smaller dirt bikes. Triumph Tiger 900 is weird. Get it find one in the green, and no one, half the people you run into in Pennsylvania aren't going to even realize that bike existed here when it did. So, Arturo, you're leaning in the right direction. Consider a VFR, and out of those ones that you listed, I think a Triumph Tiger 900 is probably going to give you affordability over the old Africa Twin and over the old Super Tenere. It's a hell of a reliable platform, but it's going to look weird enough that no one is going to know
for sure
that you had that in the United States, and you're going to be able to find parts for it. So, Patrick, let's move on to Justin. And what's some of Justin's personal info?
Justin, 39-year-old Justin, who is a personal trainer, 6'2", 215 pounds with a 36-inch inseam. So a guy that shouldn't have any problems stepping over just about any bike here.
Oh, man.
Long
spider legs.
Oh, yeah. Army vet, thank you for your service, sir. Drove, what did he say? He drove lead gun truck in Iraq and have been in multiple firefights. Good Lord, dude.
I see an adventure bike in this guy. I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't even read the rest of it yet, but like this guy, I'm guessing Justin wants to go out and get dirty and have some gnarly fun on an adventure bike.
Yeah, for sure. He said he made his dad ride his R6 two hours so he could be there when he got home on leave. What a great dad. My dad 2 hours on an R6 wouldn't be a great conversation when you got there. He also taught himself to ride on that same R6, put 2,000 miles on it in 14 days. That's pretty good on an R6.
Oh my God.
He said he's taken the MSF course, one dirt course, and he's looking to get into riding after 15 years. So it sounds like he had that R6 and then went away from riding for a while.
Well, hold on a second, Justin, because I'm seeing that you took a dirt course. So I'm guessing that, my prediction about adventure bikes might be coming true here. Let's keep going with wrenching experience. Had some mechanics in the military, but really new to motorcycle maintenance. Consider myself more of a good parts changer rather than a mechanic. No shame in that, Justin. Yep. $12,000 is the maximum you want to spend. We can keep you below that. Coastal North County, San Diego, plenty of great places to ride. And look at this, looking for a dual sport or adventure bike, 90% on the road, 10% off road. The closest dirt riding is 45 minutes away, so that he would need to ride out there. Yeah, new to dirt riding, done a dirt bike course in Anza. Would love to explore Southern California interior. When off-road, I'd prefer gravel and dirt roads, not single track. All right, listen.
Yeah,
we know
you and I where this is going.
Yeah, you've taken a test ride on a Tenere and a Touareg. What else? What else? With $12,000 maximum. Use your imagination, Patrick. What is Justin considering?
I'm gonna tell Justin a little bit about what his future holds here, and it's a good thing. So Justin, this 90% road, 10% dirt, you can go ahead and throw that out the window, buddy, because I can tell already. Spurs and I can attest to this. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in the dirt a little bit, and then you're gonna spend the next few years of your life riding dirt out there in the Mojave, and you're gonna love it. So plan on more dirt, is what I'm telling you. Yeah, he's got a good budget here. I think he's in a really good place. I mean, it's going to be hard kind of, I think, to beat maybe the Tenere in this situation.
Right.
Because of price, because of how good the bike is, just box stock, and then the availability to upgrade that thing over some time. Of the two he's listed, nothing wrong with the Touareg. But there's a lot of Teneres out there. There's a lot of aftermarket out there. There's a lot of information. You know, you and I both know a lot of guys here, you know, at work that have those, and we've ridden with them. You could go kind of that like XR 650, right? You know, you could go even more dirt, but he's saying 90% road. So I think that puts him squarely in some sort of ADV bike. But you could totally get a used, you know, KTM 890. Or 790. Like,
settle down. It's like you're trying to get me riled up over here with mentioning a KTM. Here's the deal. I'm trying to think a little bit conservatively here. Justin is an Army veteran. He put 2,000 miles on an R6. I understand that he probably likes some speed, but he also has been away from this for 15 years, looking at getting back into it. I know that you have $12,000 to spend, Justin. But I am honestly thinking maybe, just hear me out, finding a used KLR 650. Okay, you can tour on it. It'll do 75, 80 miles on the highway. The newer ones are awesome. You can find those used for like $5 or $6 grand, if not less. And you can go out and you can explore some dirt roads without feeling like you're worried that you're going to scrape the bike up or scratch the bike up. I agree with Patrick. I think you're going to get in the dirt and you're going to like the taste of it. And you're going to want to, you know, savor that feeling a little bit more than you might realize. And I like the Tenere. I like the Touareg. I like the 890. But if I'm being honest, you know, they are a little bit difficult, to manage in the softer sands outside of San Diego and Southern California. I'm trying to think of something that if you were to get yourself in over your head a little bit, as maybe the dirt road turns into a sandy wash, a KLR 650 is easy to pick up. You're not going to worry if it gets scraped up the way you might on a Tenere or a Touareg. You could buy one brand new for like under $7,000. So I just think
totally.
Maybe a KLR 650 would be something to consider, Justin. You don't have to agree with me, Patrick. I'm not asking you. I want you to be aware that just because you're subbing in for Zach Quartz, you know, Zach wouldn't always agree with me, so you don't have to. But if you wanted to, you could.
I think
you could agree with me.
Your point about you know, about like paying less for that bike is good, but I think you could probably get a Tenere not that cheap, but I guess leaving room for quote unquote Farkles is a good idea, right? Like, because you know he's going to get into this dirt game, and he's got some, you know, Kriega bags in his future. You know what I mean? He's gonna have tires coming. Maybe some suspension modifications like hand guards. This is all in your future, Justin. Like, it just is. So leaving yourself some budget for that. So we're just smiling because he knows.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Yeah. You're gonna want to get some extra little Farkles here and there, and you're gonna get the little taste of dirt. And next thing you know, you're gonna want an adventure helmet or something like that. You know, I'm just trying to think. What else are we not considering? Is there like, I hate to go KTM 690, only because a KTM 690 could be good, but it could be more, if he gets one used, he might run into some mechanical issues depending on how the previous owner maintained it.
Yeah. That jumped into my brain almost right away. My hesitation there is because which I think he could get, he's got, buying a used one is within his budget.
Right.
But there was fuel pump issues, I believe, like pre-2019. I would probably shy away from those earlier ones just because of, you know, he's mechanic. I think he'll be plenty mechanically inclined with his
They
military
didn't
background.
get the dual counterbalancer until a little bit later.
So,
and, you know, you could get a newer one. I mean, didn't you have a 690? Or did you
I had the Supermoto, which one of my favorite all-time bikes. Mine was a 21, I think.
Okay.
So I had the dual counterbalancer. I didn't have any fuel pump issues. The bike ran like a top. But you would have to buy a newer one, which he's probably going to be in the $9,000 or $10,000 range.
in SoCal. And if somebody's buying that bike, chances are they've used it a little bit harder.
Yeah. Also, it's not going to be
as
as good on the road as maybe the KLR and Tenere. There's zero wind protection.
Yeah. But you enjoyed that bike on the. I mean, I know that yours was the road version. And
I'm a
he's
lunatic,
talking about.
though. I'll drive anything anywhere.
You are a lunatic,
Like-
but this is a dude that is putting 2,000 miles on an R6
very
in
true,
14 days, and I'm not going to call Justin a lunatic because I'm pretty sure he could kick my ass. But like, I'm guessing that Justin, given his history of lead gun truck in Iraq, might be open for a little bit of lunacy as he's heading out into the desert on something. So maybe a 690 is right up this man's alley.
Maybe. And
if
if it's me, I'm taking a 690, like just because I want to do things to it and, you know, put mods on it. And like, I think off-road, it's going to be much, much better for him to handle than even a Tenere or something like that. It's going to be the weapon off-road. And honestly, it's like, there's not cruise on a Tenere. So it's not like you're getting cruise control or something like that on a Tenere that you don't get on the dash on those 690s, you know, the brand new one's got a different dash, right? Where they finally put the TFT dash on it. The earlier one, they has a dirt bike dash. That's a great bike off road. It's going to do him a lot of favors in the sand and things like that. But he's a big guy. He's a personal trainer. Any of these bikes he drops, he's going to be able to pick up. But you're going to break less things if you drop a 690.
I think where I'm leaning here is I want Justin to get out into a desert gravel road, right? And I want him to experience that, and I want him to enjoy it. And even in the desert roads, I mean, Patrick and I we've spent quite a bit of time together riding in like Mojave, which is north of Los Angeles, so a little bit outside of the range of coastal San Diego, but not necessarily out of the range of the kind of terrain that Justin might be riding in. And I say that to say that, like, you'll be riding along a hard packed gravel road, and then all of a sudden you're in a sand wash for 5 miles, and you're like, where did this come from? And if you're not sure what you're doing, you can get in over your head pretty quickly. And I think that whether it's a KLR 650 or a KTM 690, it's just a little bit of an easier experience. And both of those bikes are still going to be comfortable for, the 90% of road riding that they're looking to do. I mean, if Justin's looking at getting, on the bike for 45 minutes to get out to a dirt road, I think he's going to be able to do that.
Oh, 100% for sure. And that 690 engine is just a hammer of an engine. It's of all the bikes we've talked about, it's the fastest.
And I have a feeling that Justin likes speed.
Yeah, I mean, if he's making his dad deliver R6s to him, like I think he's going to appreciate the 690 engine.
All right, so Justin, here it is. I would say that if you're looking at just dipping your toe in, you want to get something affordable. KLR 650 might be the most affordable way for you to get out and have some fun, beat the hell out of a motorcycle, and not feel bad about it. You could go the small adventure bike route. You could go a Tenere or a Touareg, and you'll probably appreciate their comfort and pizzazz on the street. But they might, even at their size, feel a little bit unwieldy on a gravel road if it gets a little soft and sandy. I think Patrick's onto something that a KTM 690 Enduro R, if you can find a late model one that's been well maintained, could be just a ticket for you. I think you might enjoy that.
I'm with you on the 690. So I would say there's probably a bunch of Teneres you can find, but if it's me, and I'm living vicariously through Justin a little bit here because I kind of want to buy a 690 Enduro R. I get the 690. I think you'll like you're probably will ride that bike longer. Whereas maybe if you get the KLR, you'd be like, okay, this is cool. And now I want to get something a little bit spicier in that realm. You're going to upgrade to something else. I think if you get this, I think the 690, buy the late model one, do a little bit of research. I'm pretty sure it's like 2019 or 2020. They changed like the fuel pump and went to the dual counterbalancers and smoothed all that out. Just get one with that engine in it. There's a ton of aftermarket out there. If you're looking for a little more wind protection on that bike, there are windshields they sell that are a little taller, but also you could go real cool guy with like a rally tower if you really get into it. I mean,
oh, stop it! He's got a $12,000 budget, Patrick, and you're talking about rally towers. My God Almighty!
Like I said, I'm living vicariously through Justin here. Buy that 690 Enduro R and just dive right in. I'm telling you, you have a lot of good dirt miles in your future here, Justin.
Justin, Patrick is having no problem spending your money. I will tell you, Justin, if you do end up buying a used motorcycle, make sure that you take that part changer mentality and change the oil, which is a perfect segue into a quick word from our sponsor, Motul. All right, we are back, and we are now going to look at contestant number 4, Vicky, who is 44 years young, 5'6", 160 pounds. Her profession is a technical draft person in construction. Vicky, you're being humble. You're saying you're kind of boring outside of being well-traveled. And she's traveled to Hong Kong and New England and New York and Nigeria and Japan and France and Italy. You sound pretty interesting to us, Vicky. Vicky has been a passenger for 20 years, but for the last 6 has been piloting her own motorcycle. Is a licensed auto mechanic and regularly repairs her CBR. So, Vicky, you're quite interesting here. Come on.
Yeah, Vicky seems extremely interesting. She's really selling herself short here. I mean, yeah, very well traveled. She was a passenger for 20 years. Now she's riding. I mean, like, even you and I, like, we haven't spent a lot of time as a passenger. That's a totally different experience on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, she's a licensed auto mechanic. Like, I'd hang out with Vicky. I want to bring something up.
She lives in the Mediterranean. Like,
yeah. So that's something I want to, like, I need to clear up something here. She says general location, Mediterranean, St. Tropez. She says, parentheses, you two are always invited. So does that mean you and I? Do I get Zach's
not
invite?
Here anymore, so you get the invite. So we're heading.
That's all I care about.
We're heading to Europe, baby.
We're going to San Tropez. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to make sure that was my invite, not Zach's.
So Vicky, while Patrick and I are looking up flights, you are looking for a motorcycle that is new. You don't want to spend more than $20,000. Long distance traveler around Europe, no iron butt rides, but likes to do, 2 to 3 hours straight in the saddle. Likes destination trips that are, 1 to 2 days away. Is looking for more torque. Currently her CBR, and I don't see if it doesn't say if she's riding a CBR 600 or CBR 1000. Oh, she has a CBR 650R. Okay, so she has a middleweight inline 4, but is looking for more torque. She has back issues. It's uncomfortable sitting upright, so she wants something that is a little bit more, tucked down. And what are some of the options that you're thinking of here, Patrick?
Yeah, with the when she says she has to tuck down, honestly, until I got to that, I was going to recommend a Harley.
Are you so especially with so she's looking for more torque because climbing up her CBR 650 is not happy climbing uphill, especially with her 170-pound son or her husband behind me. So Vicky is often taking passengers on the back with her as well. That's an interesting consideration. So we're maybe considering passenger accommodations. I'm thinking here, Patrick. What do we got? So she finds that the GSX S1000T was too upright. She's ridden her husband's Hornet, but it's too upright for her. All right. So what do we got? What are we thinking? It's more torque. I mean, she could do She could do we could go crazy. You could do an Aprilia Tuono V4.
Dude, that would be an incredible bike. Would the Kawasaki, like the Z1000 fit in here? Or is that too upright?
I mean, it could be more aggressive. The Z1000, that's a naked sport bike, kind of similar to what she has.
Yep.
From a seating position standpoint, it is a bit more of aggressive seating position. Could be a little bit more oomph than she has currently.
I hate to add to like the heavy KTM bias that we are accused of, but does the 990?
It could.
That's a great motorcycle.
I know, but I am very afraid of my KTM bias. I think that would be similar to what she has now, but going to the parallel twin would give her the torque.
Yep.
She's in an inline 4. For those of you that are not familiar, the CB650R right now that Vicky is riding is the only middleweight, naked-ish sport bike that has an inline 4 to my knowledge. Which is just not going to have the same torque as a P-twin, something like the KTM 990 Duke that Patrick is referring to. That engine spins up fast, has a lot of oomph, definitely more torque. We're going in the right direction. You're going in the right direction here.
Yeah.
What else are you thinking?
Yeah, the 990 really jumped out because of that twin. Man. So what about a Honda? Like, does Honda have a parallel twin in that same kind of configuration? I'm not really sure.
They have she said she rode her husband's Hornet, which would be, I don't think she says if it was the Hornet 750 or the Hornet 1000. But she said that was too upright for her. I'm thinking.
What about a triple? What if we go Triumph?
Triumph. I like it. I like where your head's going here.
Yeah, go triple.
So Triumph just announced that they were discontinuing the Street Triple R, which would be the one with the pillion seat. She could get the RS and add the pillion seat. I think that's a fun bike to sport tour on. Not
Definitely.
A lot of wind protection, but she could do it. She's doing it. She's doing it right now in a CBR 650.
Yeah, she's doing it. That doesn't seem to be an issue for her. I mean, yeah, I think outside of the 990, like I said, I don't hate the Z1000. That's going to have plenty of power.
I mean, Yamaha has a triple. She could do the MT-09.
That's a great bike too. My brother was kind of in this little bit of the same situation recently. He was looking real hard at the MT-09s, and we ended up finding him a 1-year-old 790 Duke.
Okay,
and loves it. I mean, absolute great motorcycle. It's parallel twin, it's a little smaller, but it was right there against the MT-09 for him. And we just ended up, it was basically, we found the right bike. He would have went to that MT-09. But again, I think as far as a triple, that MT-09 sits in a really interesting spot. I think for the money, it's really hard to beat that motorcycle.
Yeah, listen, we're throwing a bunch of stuff at you, Vicky. And I'm thinking the Aprilia Tuono, while it would come in under your $20,000 price range, I believe, I'm not sure what they go for in Europe. That's taking a pretty big jump in power. You're not quite doubling your horsepower, but it would be a pretty big jump. I think something where you're getting more torque and you're getting more horsepower, but not like, 100% increase in horsepower. I like the idea of it. Even as I was looking like an MT-10, that's another inline 4,
right? More
torque than she has now, but again, maybe not enough of what she's looking for. The MT-09 could be something to consider.
The MT-10s, they just seem so much like physically bigger than the MT-09 when you sit on them. And I mean, they're not wanting for power at all. Yeah. But again, I kind of like that triple motor of the MT-09. I've spent a fair amount of time on MT-09s, not the latest version of a few years back. A buddy of mine had one. I actually borrowed it for about 3 months and really, really enjoyed that bike. Comfortable bike. I mean, you won't want for like coming off your 650, the thing's going to seem like an absolute rocket ship.
They have an SP version, which has the nicer
hot rod suspension.
So I'm looking up some specs for you, Vicky. You're 5'6", you're 160 pounds, but you did not give us your inseam. The MT09 has a 32.5 inch seat height. It is a slightly more aggressive seating position. And if we were to compare that to a Triumph Street Triple, let's see here. I'm doing research in real time. If you're listening and you know the exact seat height of a Street Triple, feel free to yell it out. But a Street Triple R, I'm looking right now, Vicky. Chassis design. Come on, give it to me, people. Dimensions and weight. Oh, here we go. 32.5 inch seat height with a low seat version available for 30.7 inches. So, not that Yamaha doesn't have a low seat, but I'm not seeing that easily listed. But an MT09 with a 32.5 inch seat height, Street Triple R, 32.5 inch seat height, low seat height available, 30.7 inches for an inseam. I think either of those bikes will probably have a slightly more aggressive seating position. I think the Triumph might be a little bit more aggressive than the Yamaha. And I would not ask Vicky to sport tour on anything that I wouldn't be willing to sport tour on. And I have sport toured on both an MTO. Well, it was an XSR 900, but very similar to the MT09. So I sport toured on a very similar bike to an MT09, and I've also sport toured on a Street Triple R.
Let me throw one more thing in there.
I love it. What do you
Ducati
got?
Monster.
Son of a bitch. Just
32
when we thought you were out of ideas, you come at us with a Ducati Monster. I love it.
32.5 inch seat height, but they have a lowering kit that drops it down to 30.5. So we're there again. It's going to be a little torquier than what she has. There's an option to drop it down if she's not, comfortable with the 32 inches. Little flair to it, little European, pizzazz from Ducati.
She's right there down the street. She can go over and pick it up from the factory.
Yeah.
Looks like, and again, Vicky, we're going on U.S. prices here. So you said you want under $20,000. I'm not sure what these are going for over in your neck of the woods, but we're looking at a roughly starting price around $14,000 US. For those of you that are not familiar, this is a 90-degree V-twin engine. Definitely going to be this is the newer version, 110 horsepower, 67 foot-pounds of torque. Definitely something a little bit on the sportier side. You can still have a passenger on it. Definitely a little bit more of an aggressive seating position, but still that naked kind of a sport bike look. I listen, man, I feel like we're barking up the right tree for Vicky. So Vicky,
totally.
if you're listening here, we hear that you like the CBR 650R. You'd like that naked sport bike kind of a feel to it. You're not having any problems currently sport touring on that bike. What Patrick and I are trying to do is find you a bike that's similar to that, but with different engine characteristics, continually, thinking about that seating position. You want that more aggressive seating position for your lower back. You're in the Mediterranean. We want to give you something with some European flair to it. I know the Japanese bike doesn't have that same sexy European flair. I like Patrick's idea for the Ducati. The Ducati Monster is a great bike. And I feel like the only thing that the Yamaha might give you, even over the Triumph and potentially the Ducati, is like it's really hard to beat the punch to the throat torque of that triple engine in the Yamaha. So I'm torn here. These are all great options.
Yeah, I'm torn a little bit. I mean, honestly, it comes down to, for me, it's coming down to the MT09 or the Monster. And this is really interesting because, like I said, I went through this real life experience with my brother looking at these same bikes. And it came down to what was available. And that's why we ended up going with that 790. But I think, man, it's hard to get away from that MT. I think in the class, it's really hard to beat the MT09 for what it is.
Yeah. unless you hate the way it looks. And
Right.
then it's very easy to get away from what it is.
You know what? And that's a great point, because if you're looking for a little bit of sex appeal, the Ducati wins, right?
Yeah.
Like because it sounds great. It's Ducati, so aesthetically, it's always going to have like a little bit of an edge to it. You know, European flair and all that. So if that's what she's looking for, but just on like, man, it's tough to beat those MT-09. So aesthetics out of it, I'd probably go with the MT-09. If you're looking for a little bit more flash aesthetically, then I'd probably go with the Monster.
I
don't think you go wrong either way.
Listen, I think Patrick's absolutely right, Vicky. I'm still not sure that we want to rule out the Triumph as well. But I don't know if we're gonna. You know, I think sometimes when we do this with Zach holds a little bit more of the feet to the fire and says you have to pick one.
Yeah.
I feel like, Patrick, if I'm holding your feet to the fire, guest host honor, which bike are you recommending for Vicky?
I'm going to go with the MT-09, and what I think is pushing me over the edge a little bit here is the tail section on that Ducati is so little. It's very little. If you want to put a little bit of luggage or something on it, I think maybe the MT-09 might be a little bit more user friendly with that. Or, you know, she did mention there's some 2-up riding there, even with her husband, I think, riding on the back of her bike. I think she mentioned that in there. And I think if you're going to go there, not that either of these bikes are really meant for like long-term 2-up riding, it's just hard to beat the MT-09. If you're holding my feet to the fire, I'm taking the Yamaha.
Okay, so Patrick's saying the Yamaha. I'm having a hard my heart. I know that I have things that I like here, and it's hard for me to get away from them. Like, I really think the Triumph Street Triple R, having used that bike when I was living in Tennessee for a short while as a sport touring option, I think that's another great option to consider. So, Vicky, not that you shouldn't maybe test drive a Ducati too. But start with the MT-09 from Yamaha or the Triumph Street Triple R. If you can find one in your neck of the woods, both of those picks are going to keep you well under the $20,000 limit. And I think they might be just the ticket for you. So I think it's now time that we move on to Noah. And Patrick, introduce us to Noah.
Boy, Noah, like, we really kind of stood out to us here. This is a little bit of a different one. So Noah is 7 years old.
7 years old. I love it. We got a kid coming in.
I mean, this is great. Like, Noah, you're a hero. Like, 7 years old. First of all, listening to this podcast, shame on you.
Hey, this is a family-friendly podcast. We watch our language for the most part. We try to bleep stuff out, and it sounds like Randy, Noah's father, actually took the time to send this in. So thank you, Randy, for exposing Noah to motorcycling. Maybe not exposing him as much to the shenanigans of Zach Quartz and Patrick Garvin and myself, because we can be guess we're all parents here, so maybe we are a good influence on the world of children.
A+ for Randy. Yeah, you're raising this kid right.
I love it.
Noah, I mean, use your better judgment when taking our advice. But so he broaches an interesting question here that I think is a lot of people are with kids are probably have the same question. So he's currently on a Razor electric bike. He said he's reached his limits. He loves it and he wants some more. Dad helps Noah with basic oil changes and brake fluid, gizmo wiring, nothing too serious. They have a $3,000 max. Riding around a property and off-roading trail. But Spurge, this is probably, we're talking to thousands of kids and potential riders with this same dilemma right here, right?
I'm thinking a little Spurge, in a couple of years right now. I know Zach's son is probably, getting close to, he's probably still about 4 or 5 years away from Noah's age. And my son's probably about 6 years away. But like, Patrick, you've gone through this, right? Like, your son is already out in the world. He has gone through this age. Like, if your boy was 7 years old, coming up, what are you considering, for $3,000 or less?
So this is interesting because my son is getting ready to be 22. We went through this, but we didn't, the electric, kind of revolution. We were right before that. You know what I mean? So when we're talking 15 years ago. So we were PW50, right? Like,
Right.
which was what everybody, it was pretty much your go-to. Everybody went PW50. And then we kind of skipped over, and we kind of skipped, I would say, like a motorcycle, in like, we didn't go to like CRF 50 or anything. We went straight to, a KTM 65, which was a big jump. Those little 65 two-strokes are really fast. We went 65, then we went Suzuki 85. And so then we're in basically like a full-on motorcycle. So we kind of jumped over where I think he has a lot more options than we did as far as what to go to here. Because he could totally stay electric here, right?
Well,
Like-
and what is he? He's riding the Razor electric dirt bike right now.
Yeah, it just says a Razor electric bike.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's a pretty small. But now what you're seeing in a lot of these your local motocross tracks and that, instead of kids going to 65cc two strokes, you're getting the electric bikes from KTM or Husky or whoever. And I'm not super versed in those, but I can tell you from working my local motocross, the Jack Pine Gypsies here, I've worked a couple races with them. Is just a corner worker, and that these electric bikes are every bit as good, if not better, than the gas powered bike in those classes. It's less maintenance, obviously, for the parents. You know what I mean? There's just the two strokes can be finicky if you don't have them tuned right. We've all seen probably a clip of the parent on the starting line furiously kicking the child's bike. So as the dad, like, you get rid of a lot of that with the electric bike. It's literally, plugging it in, making sure your tires are set and going. So I think if he's got the electric bike already, probably worth, keeping him in that on that electric bike, I would say. Also, the two-stroke 65cc bikes they are like gold, meaning even the used ones are pretty expensive.
Yeah. I'm looking through his considerations here. And one of the things he says is, he doesn't want his quote unquote old man view of gas engines to get in the way of the possibility that young kids, growing up might love e-bikes more than gas, right? The twist and go, like my nephews are all on Stasics of a variety of sizes. One of the things I'm thinking about here for Noah is that, like, you can get on a Stasic and follow that up the path. And, there's kids out there ripping on Stasics that might as well be electric dirt bikes. But I feel like that's probably a little bit too electric bicycle for what Noah's looking to do. He also goes on to say, and I just want to pause for a second and say, Randy, I really appreciate your perspective as a father. I think you're being really self-aware of, the way that maybe you grew up riding and not wanting to project that on young Noah. I think that's awesome. I think that's something that we could probably all stand to pause and reflect on from time to time. And, Randy goes on to say, should we get Noah easy peasy electric bike that he'll immediately be at home with? Or, do you force the learning curve in the spirit of long-term benefit, right? Do you get the Honda CRF 50, which requires shifting? And what I will say about the Honda is that it's clutchless. It's 3 gears. He has to jam it down. He can rev the hell out of it, and then has to learn to pull the gear lever up. I don't think Noah's going to struggle with it too much. I think he'll probably be able to figure it out, and that might give him the benefit of moving up into other, dirt bikes later on. But like our West Coast producer Spencer Robert has pointed out, there's also a lot of really popular smaller electric dirt bikes that are coming out. That, maybe that's the way that Noah wants to bump into. But I do think your point about cost is something to consider.
Yeah, I think I'm a gas powered guy. I see the benefit of the electric bikes. I mean, obviously the Stark Varg, as far as a full size electric bike is just, there's nothing but good things as far as like how they perform. The performance is there. I think he makes a good point in that. I mean, he's going to eventually need to learn a clutch and shifting, right? And I very vividly remember.
Does he? Like, that's the whole point that I think he's trying to make. Like, maybe he doesn't ever have to learn that, right? Like,
possibly, but I think he's going to want to. You know what I mean? As a kid, I think you're going to want to eventually. I remember really, really clearly teaching my son Race how to. It's not the shifting. The shifting they get right away. It's the takeoff, right? It's using a clutch. That's the difficult part, and it's difficult as a parent too because you're turning them loose, like you're telling them to release this clutch and give it gas and hope it all goes well. Where the electric bike is a lot simpler. But if you're looking at it from that point, like it's probably easier to teach them that on a 50cc bike rather than 2 years from now. He's 9 years old. He's looking at a 65 or an 85. And then you're learning that clutch control on a bigger bike that is definitely faster. So I see the pros, honestly, to going to the gas powered side of things. Whereas like, it's going to be easier though on the electric side, as far as like, you don't have to haul gas to the track. You don't have to fill it back up. You don't have to worry about, like I said, it not starting and flooding it and kicking it 1,000 times. So there are benefits to both, but I'm honestly kind of leaning towards the gas powered side of things.
I think the struggle here, and I'm trying to be super open-minded with you, Randy, as you're trying to figure this out, and you're trying to be open-minded as well. I'm looking at just some of the prices. Like, for example, one of the bikes you mentioned is the electric bike from KTM, right? Which is they have a KTM SX-E5, which is a ripping little electric bike for kids, like real suspension, real tires, real brakes, just a gnarly dirt bike for children with an MSRP of $5,800. So that's new.
Yeah.
So Randy, I'm keeping your $3,000 max in mind. So now I'm looking used, and the most affordable one I can use that I can find used is a 2025 model. It looks, let's just say, well used, and that is going to be $4,400. So like, even if you go in there and lowball them, you're not like, I just have a hard time believing you're going to get that bike for $3,000. Whereas by comparison, you can walk into the local Honda dealership in your town and get a brand new CRF 50 for roughly $1,900 plus a $300 destination charge and taxes. Yeah. Let's factor in your sales tax too, Randy. You're coming out the door for $2,500 for a brand new bike, and don't even get me started on what you can probably find a CRF 50 for if you're checking your local Facebook marketplace ads.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The electric, especially the small electric bikes, have a kind of a ridiculous price tag to them. I haven't looked at the used Honda CRF 50 market, but like you said, I bet you there's plenty to be had.
Yeah, I think if we're factoring in, and I'm scouring quickly for you, Randy. I think if we are factoring in ease of use, and we are factoring in, cost, $3,000 max, I think Noah would probably be able to hop on a Honda 50 and figure it out pretty quickly with that auto clutch. It's pretty easy to use. And I think it would maybe give him a little bit more of that experience of, being like dad. It sounds like Noah already likes helping dad do basic things, oil change, brake fluids, gizmo wiring, etc. So he has that interest, and maybe getting him something that feels a little bit more like the bike that dad is on would just help with that bonding experience too.
Yeah. I mean, also, I just looked real quick, the Yamaha, the TTR 50, that's the other option. I think it's probably a little bit cheaper than the Honda. Very similar motorcycle, but again, between the two, you probably have a much better chance of finding one of those rather than electric bike for the price. So if you can't find the Honda, you'll probably find the TTR 50.
Yeah.
The PW 50, I think, is probably too small. So you're looking at the TTR, which is a little bit bigger. And again, I'm not super sure on the size of the TTR 50 compared to the CRF 50, but the TTR might be a little more like leaning in the full size motorcycle feel than the Honda is.
Yeah. Just I'm trying to do some research because I don't have a 7-year-old yet, right? Like Patrick, you've had a 7-year-old. Like I know it's coming way too fast. He's already 16 months old. This is insane. But like also, I know Honda. I don't think Honda even makes. Does Honda make their electric CRF 50 anymore? They used to have a CRF 50. And theirs was more affordable. Granger Power Sports. I'm not seeing it on Honda's website, but I know Honda had.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Honda has the CRF, CRF E2, and I'm not. I want to. I feel like we've tried this bike for Common Tread. Give me 1 second, audience, as I look this up quickly, and then we'll move on because I know there's a lot of you out there that probably aren't too concerned. But I will say this. So. Check out this article as a final takeaway, Noah and Randy, because Randy, you might have to read the article to Noah. Back in February 27, 2023, we actually got a kid, and we had an employee's child give us a little write-up on the Honda CRF-E. At the time, MSRP was $2,950, and this is just kind of a little interesting article. The article is entitled "A 2022 Honda CRF E2 Electric Mini Bike Review." And maybe if you can find one of those used, that could be a way to split the difference. I don't think you're going to be able to get the KTM in the price point that you're looking for, but maybe the Honda would split the difference for you. But I would also say that knowing that little Noah's already trying to mimic dad in the garage and potentially out there on the trail, the 3-speed auto clutch on the CRF50 would probably be a cool learning experience for Noah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would go with, I'd probably go with the Honda. But I wouldn't pass a good deal on a Yamaha TTR 50.
All right, there you have it. So you're not standing in the way of Noah. I think you're probably thinking about this exactly the right way, if you will. And so with that being said, let's move on to Cedar, who is 29. Now here's the fun fact about Cedar. Cedar it's not so much a secret anymore, but this contestant was secretly sent in by Cedar's partner, Anna. Anna wants you to have a new motorcycle, Cedar. What a partner she must be.
Oh, man. You got to win her. Hold on to that one.
Exactly. Cedar is 29 years old, 5'11", 220 pounds, 32-inch inseam. Cedar is a student. He used to be a race technician for Porsche. I just want to pause and reflect there. I like Cedar already.
Cedar, let's talk about these Porsches.
Yeah. Do you have? I feel like there's some knowledge we could probably gain from Cedar.
Yeah.
Did you get to race a Porsche while you were the race technician? Like, what's going on here? I'm interested.
Yeah, I feel like that's most. Yeah, what are we messing around with these motorcycles for, Cedar?
Patrick, let's do read for me the fun facts here, which I think will be interesting for our audience.
Yeah. So like I said, Anna submitted this. So she says, yes, he does have the best partner who wants to see him riding a nice bike alongside me on a Kawasaki Z500 SE. She says he got me to start riding 2 years ago. So he got her to start riding, and now that is paying off for him
in dividends.
Yeah. So, well done. We have a Kawasaki ZX-7R as an island piece in our kitchen, as well as a few other bikes in a display room of our house. I mean, I'm just mind blown here. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on here, Cedar and Anna, and we're just getting a small glimpse into your lifestyle, but frankly, it seems pretty cool. So
yeah.
Cedar's riding experience is been riding for about 3 years, has a few long trips under his belt, has ridden a few sport bikes like a CBR 600RR, dirt bikes like a KX 450, and a couple of cruisers like a Honda Magna. Has wrenched on all these bikes as well as he's a Porsche mechanic. I'm sure he's not going to have a problem there. The SV650S, he's been rebuilding from a total ruin. Has a budget of around $8,000, and goes on to just kind of clarify. Been rebuilding an SV650S, wants a faster bike like an S1000 or a GSXR 1000. Or even a bike more suitable for doing long trips and off-road BDR adventures like a DR650. So there's a lot to play around.
That's a huge. I mean, you went from Gixxer 1000 to BDR, from SV650 and DR. I mean, basically it's a wide range of possibilities here, with the only consideration being $8,000, because that's a wide range of motorcycles. I just want to say something that jumped out at me here. $8,000 in Gixxer and a Gixxer 1000. Have you heard of Dave the Gixxer?
If you haven't seen that episode of CTXP with our friends Ari Henning and Zach Kortz,
I think that's the first thing that jumped into my mind was Dave the Gixxer. So for $8,000, you're not getting a newer really Gixxer 1000, but that also doesn't matter if you've seen the Dave the Gixxer episode, because that just shows you how capable an older Gixxer 1000 is. And I'm not sure what they paid for Dave, but was it even 8,000?
It was not a lot of money. I'd have to go back and remind myself, but I think 8,000 would probably be way too much money when you consider Dave. And Cedar knows how to fix it, right? So you can buy a bit of a train wreck and put it back together.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to take away here is, like, you can get a lot of motorcycle, a lot of performance motorcycle, and to give you not to, spoiler alert, the Dave the Gixxer episode, but Zach and Ari put that up against like the leading edge Ducati at the time, and had some, let's just say, rather phenomenal results out of Dave. So,
I'm looking at the budget of $8,000, right? So the S1000 that Anna is referencing is a BMW. The S1000 RRs hold their value really well. I don't know if you're going to be able to find one in that $8,000 price range per se.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
I am also, something might be that's more suitable for long trips or off-road BDR adventures. Does she say where they live? She doesn't say where they live.
I mentioned Ocotillo Wells.
Okay, so maybe okay. I know that when we did, Patrick was the guest when Zach and Patrick and I played a game where we each had $20,000 to spend, and we were in the different areas in which we reside, and Zach was in charge of shopping in the Southern California region, which I'm guessing that they're located in. And one of the bikes that he found a lot of ease finding was an R1250 GS for that, $8,000-$9,000 range. Now I know that might not be exactly what Cedar would be considering off the top of his head, but a Porsche engine is not.
Yeah, you're talking about an opposed cylinder heads there.
Yeah,
very. That's a similar engine design. That's also a really versatile bike, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody thinks of that as being like this. It's a strictly adventure bike. But I mean, there was that Boxer series for a while, right? There was a road race series that they raced a certain BMW Boxster engine in.
But I mean, I think when you're thinking about this from a, doing long trips, potentially off-road, BDR adventures. You know, you could look at a GS 1250 and have a hoot of a time. I'm also being mindful that I don't know what his experience is off-road. Like maybe the DR 650 would be, you know, more of an appropriate bike off-road. And I don't want to go back out and make the same exact recommendations that we kicked off, you know, with Arturo, you know, with the, you know, well, I guess he was looking for more of like a European take on things. No, I'm thinking of Justin, who was San Diego. Justin was our military vet, and he was looking for an adventure bike. Some of those same comparisons could kind of hang out here too. So like, what's something that splits the difference? What's something that would feel fast like a sport bike, that would be more suitable for long trips, potentially some off-roading, $8,000 price tag?
So yeah, the difference is, you know, Justin had $4 more grand to spend. And whenever somebody mentions DR650, I think you also have to think Honda XR650L, right?
XR650L, yeah.
So if you're thinking of a Suzuki DR, you I think you always have to consider the Honda also. I have seen an XR400 turned into a pretty cool supermoto. It was the Rouser. Used to work for Biltwell. He may still work for Biltwell. He had a really trick XR400 supermoto that he built. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting the obviously Gixxer 1,000 horsepower out of that bike, but you can get kind of a similar experience. That's a really versatile bike. You could have 2 sets of wheels. You know what I mean?
I like where your head's at here. Keep going. Don't stop. You're on the right track. Yeah.
So I think you can build a versatile bike, because the difficulty here is they gave us such a crazy like span. You know, we're talking about a Gixxer 1,000 and a DR650 in the same sentence. So to me, you got to get a bike that's a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife, which to your point, you know, the BMW is that also. But honestly, I kind of like the idea of the Honda. I don't know. I like the fact that you're thinking.
I like the fact that you're thinking of something wacky and weird, because it sounds like, I mean, this is the couple that has a ZX7R, you know, in their home as a conversation piece in their kitchen. Cedar is mechanically inclined. So an XR400R was manufactured, I think, only up until like the early 2000s. It's a kickstart only. But hell, Cedar's only 29 years old. He can kickstart a motorcycle. He's not worried about bad knees. Yeah. But he could build it into something that's pretty cool. Like you've seen the XR400 platform used into like, you know, kind of cool desert racing things. I just don't know if it's going to give him the street functionality suitable for longer trips that he is looking for.
So
that's
again,
my concern there.
So the 650, you know, the XR 650 would be, I think, maybe a little more tailored to that. But same vein, there's a guy on Instagram, I think he's out of Indiana. It's Parr Motorcycles, Parr. The guy builds really cool stuff out of Honda 650s, like supermoto looking. I mean, we're talking a pretty extravagant builds. But the point being, I think you could build a real Swiss Army knife of a bike out of that Honda 650 to the point where you could have 2 sets of wheels, right? Like you could have a set of 17s, maybe a different set of suspension if you really wanted to go whole hog. You put a supermoto front fender on it, trims it up, you do LED lighting on it. You know, you can kind of get real trick with those bikes and build yourself that, you know, combination machine there. I know I'm going out on a limb here.
I don't hate the direction you're going in. I am going to shift in a slightly different direction, just for your consideration, Cedar. A Triumph Scrambler 1200 is going to be torquey and powerful, probably a little bit more appropriate for the street. With some knobby tires, you can get away with riding that off-road. I know that my buddy Jeff Canary rode one in Southern California. I believe Zach Quartz rode one. I know that Zach rode one in
he rode
Get on
here.
Adventure Fest up in the Black Hills with you. I've ridden the snot out of that bike, both on-road and off. Really fun. You can find them. I'm doing a quick search right now. You can find them for around the $8,000 price range. And knowing that Cedar likes to tinker and, you know, mess around with things, he can probably build that into a pretty cool looking, desert racer / tourer / whatever he wants it to be.
I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised. Like, if you can get that bike for $8,000, that's a great pick. My buddy Brady McLean from Go Fast, he actually owns 2 of those now. I have traveled extensively with Brady, with him on that bike. That's a great motorcycle. To do all the things you want to do with it. That's a really good pick. If you can find one for $8,000, I would.
Killer engine.
That's a killer engine. Very capable.
I would say for the audience listening, that bike is available in 2 variants. There's the XE and the XC. The XC has a slightly lower suspension. The XE has a taller suspension. Yep. I'm looking at Cedar. You are 5'2" with a 32-inch inseam. You can probably get away with the taller suspension, but you just might want to throw your leg over it first. But I don't really see that even being an issue from a seat height standpoint for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wouldn't even have thought of that bike for. I was surprised you can get one used for that which it makes sense because they've been out for a while now.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
looking
a
at
great
like 2019, 2020 versions.
Yep.
Under 10,000 miles. There's a couple of really good used deals out there on Cycle Trader for those of you out there that might be considering a used Scrambler 1200. And I don't know. I think those are 2 good picks on 2 different ends of the spectrum, right? And what's really unique about Cedar is that it sounds like he's not afraid to get in there and get weird and rebuild something from ground up.
Yeah, I think you got a couple different ways to go there. If it's me, obviously I like to build stuff. I would probably gravitate to the Honda and just going and building something that was, like I said, a Swiss Army knife.
I'm surprised you haven't taught listen, you haven't brought up a Harley Davidson once for any of these people. And so
they've not really. They
haven't really given me the option. What about like taking a Sportster? Have you ever considered, Patrick, whilst riding in Southern California, taking a Sportster and turning it into a dirt scrambler? And if so, would you recommend somebody else do that?
So I have done that. I'd highly recommend it. One of the reasons I didn't bring, because I was thinking about bringing it up here. This is Gixxer 1000 thing. Like, if you're looking for Gixxer 1000 power, a Sportster is not for you, sir. But it might check every other box. Again, being a real Swiss Army knife of a motorcycle, and there is kind of there's a movement, let's say right now, to make dirtsters that's being pushed by Mark Atkins, Rusty Butcher. He's built a bunch of these. The guys over at Lead Sled have built a couple of them. Guys are taking like Honda 450 front ends, revalving the front and putting them on Sportsters and long shocks on the back. And they make a surprisingly capable off-road bike. Mark has even built a Supermoto with a set of 17s and different suspension. Again, Cedar, if you like to tinker and you like to build stuff, Sportsters are pretty awesome. They're pretty bulletproof motors. You can build an 80 horsepower version really easily. Nothing exotic in the motor. Simply cams and a big bore will get you 80 horsepower at the wheel of a Sportster. Very torquey 80 horsepower. So that's
what do you recommend for not blowing the shocks out right away?
That Honda front end's pretty great. Spurs is right. So I brought one to a Get On Adventure Fest with a built, let's say, 2-over front end, still 39 millimeter Harley, and a set of aftermarket shocks on the back, tall shocks. And in one afternoon, I managed to blow both fork seals and one of the rear shocks. So
brutal riding, and maybe that's part of it too. Like, I don't know. It sounds like if Cedar was going to be riding off road, it might be a little bit more of an entry level endeavor for him. But I guess my point in bringing it up was, one, I know that you've done that, and two, it sounds like Cedar is not out of the realm of weird, wild, and wacky possibilities.
Feeling. Yeah, especially from what they've talked about doing there. Yeah, I think that opens you up, and again, like, I am the work on your own bike guy. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of doing things yourself and working, and it just opens your possibilities up so much more. If you are willing to, grab a hold of a wrench and do some things yourself, it gives you a lot of latitude in your motorcycle choices, which I think Cedar has here.
I like where we landed with this one in Cedar. I'm going to leave you with the range of options to consider. I'm going to thank your partner Anna in advance for this one because super fun way for us to end the episode. Patrick brought up a bike that I haven't thought about for a long time, which was the Honda XR 400R. Really a unique historic bike from Honda. You can probably find a ton of them hanging out in the desert in SoCal. And that would give you a hell of a platform to have a lot of fun on. I think if you want something more modern, more powerful that you can still, tool around with, check out a 2019 or later Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE or XE. I think you'll love the engine, and I think it'll be something you could ride for a long road trip. You could take off road. You could have fun in the twisties. You could build it out the way you want to build it out. And if you want a real wild card, Patrick, I think we probably have some picture of the Sportster build that you took to get on Adventure Fest. We'll have to put that up on the screen for our audience because that's the wild card. Cedar, we will leave you with that. If you have Patrick Garvin's ambition, maybe a Sportster build, would be the way to go.
Crank that hog, brother.
Speaking of cranking hogs, you have provided us with a perfect segue for the engine sound guessing game. Just keep in mind here, this is brought to you by our friends at Akrapovich. So if you are looking to make your motorcycle engine sound better than it ever has, consider an exhaust from Akrapovich. They make the most premium exhausts that money can buy for your motorcycle, from sport bikes to off-road. They've got you covered. So now, Patrick, how about you do guest honors and crank the hog for our audience?
All right. I can smell that audio clip.
All right, I want to take a pause for 1 second and just remind everybody that Patrick, I think, is probably got the most glorious fail on record of ever with the Highside, Lowside guessing
I got
game.
too big for my britches.
You got really you got cocky because you were so good at it, and then you came out so swinging, and you're like, "This is what it is," and you were so definitive, and you were not right.
Oh man, it was a fall from grace like no other.
Patrick, what are you hearing with this engine sound?
So it's pretty clearly a two-stroke in an older two-stroke. Like I immediately, I could smell that audio clip. Like it just brought me back to being a kid and like somebody in your neighborhood had a dirt bike and went over and started it up and started revving it. Like that's right where I went.
And how did you hear it starting? Did you hear a starter motor or no?
I don't believe I did. Like maybe it's like one of those things where you immediately start remembering things that maybe aren't there, because I started having like these flashbacks to my childhood of like two-stroke dirt bikes and like with this starter motor. Like
how many cylinders are you hearing?
That's a single cylinder.
Single cylinder. I thought I heard a Kickstarter, so it would kind of be right in line. Do you want a hint first, or do you want to listen a second time?
There are so many possibilities here. I think I need the hint. Okay. I'm pretty sure, like, it's not like it's pretty clear to me that it's a single cylinder, older two-stroke.
Okay. So in real time, for those of you playing along at home, Patrick and I are going to flip over the hint together. The hint is a two-stroke street bike.
Oh, okay.
So here's my only thought, is it might not be a single cylinder, even though that's what I thought I heard too.
Yep.
So let's listen. So typically two strokes are not built for the street any longer because of emission standards. So if this is a two-stroke street bike, this is probably more of a vintage motorcycle. Some that come to mind are Yamahas and Kawasaki's.
Yeah, like
Did not sound-
RD350.
Did not sound like a triple to me, though. It did not sound like
No.
the Kawasaki.
So if it's an RD350, it's not a single, obviously. It's probably not a single if it's a street bike. Man.
I mean, that's like, all right, let's listen one more time, because if it's not a single, maybe it's a parallel twin. But let's take one more listen. Okay. I'm more lost than ever, because I am racking my brain for other street bikes that are two strokes outside of Yamaha RD 350s and
H2 Kawasaki, but that was a triple.
But they had three different variants of that triple too.
Yep.
They had a small one. I think they had like a 250 triple, a 500 triple, and a 750 triple. And that doesn't really sound like a triple to me, but maybe
No.
I'm just not hearing it right.
Listening back, it does sound like a 2-cylinder now that I said my first listen, I immediately like started having flashbacks to my childhood.
Wait a second. Don't doubt yourself. What if it's a scooter? What if it's like
I never considered that.
like a Kim, like I know like the Kimco's even recently had like a 50cc street legal scooter, but like historically you could get
Like a Yamaha Zuma.
yeah, I mean, or like even what did my buddy Jeff Canary and Liz Canary? What did they had? They had some like knockoff. I think theirs was a 2-stroke. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a 4-stroke. But like, I feel like historically you could get a scooter that was a 2-stroke, and it would be street legal, and it would also probably be a single cylinder.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a number of Aprilias, and then there's the Zuma. I'm pretty sure was a 50cc 2-stroke street legal. When I was drag racing, everybody at the track had one. Let me throw another wrench into this.
Do it. I love it. Throw a wrench.
Harley Hummer.
What? You think it's going to be that old?
Could be.
How
I mean,
old is
RD350.
Harley Hummer is what, like?
Those are 70s, aren't they? I'm not super versed on those, but weren't they like single cylinder?
I thought they were early. Yeah, but I thought they were earlier than that.
They might have been a little bit.
To the internet.
Yeah,
well,
Harley Hummer.
Here's the real key to being a good podcast host. Is that, we keep the conversation going whilst looking up things on the internet to make it seem like we're seamlessly
like
this
just-
smart all the time.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
1955
50s
to
then.
1959. Yeah.
Okay. So probably not that, but I'm just trying to think of street legal. It doesn't sound, it sounds like an older 2-stroke for some reason. And I'm probably stuck. My buddy had an RD350, a really cool one. And I'm trying to remember, man, I know that's probably just too easy of a guess for me to have, but I'm just stuck on an RD350.
I think it's
don't think
hard
it's an
because it
H2.
doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a 2-cylinder to me. Like when you first said a vintage 2-stroke dirt bike, like it definitely didn't sound like a modern 2-stroke dirt bike. It did not sound like a liquid cooled fire breather. It sounded like an older kind of air cooled 2-stroke. I heard a Kickstarter there. I'm not hearing
Definitely.
a starting engine, starter motor. So let's do second hint. First hint was a 2-stroke street bike. The second hint, single cylinder, made in Italy.
Oh my God.
No idea. Like it's gotta be a scooter, right? Like, or
Because I was going to like Yamaha Enduro.
the Ducati. What was like a vintage Ducati? Like, come on, Spurgeon. What's your Ducati knowledge here?
I mean, Aprilia had 2-stroke.
We can't use
road
the
race
internet for
bikes.
this. This is cheating. So I'm not using the internet for this. But
Aprilia had like 2-stroke road race bikes, but were any of them street legal?
well, you said
Like
what
Aprilia
about the Aprilia
125s.
scooter that you said?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I don't know the models, but there are plenty of Aprilia 2-stroke scooters that
Zach,
use
what's
those.
the one that Zach had?
Oh yeah, what did he have? It's probably Zach's bike. He probably sent the sound.
No, he sold
He's torturing
it. He sold
us.
it. He sold it. No. Zach, because I know that he worked with Abby. That bike was up on Iconic's website. what was the Aprilia two-stroke scooter?
I thought they had a pretty popular, like it was a bigger CC, like a 125 two-stroke scooter. I can't remember.
He had the 50cc. It was an SR. He had an SR 50R. I believe was the scooter that Zach had. So he had the smaller 50cc two-stroke.
Yeah,
scooter.
SR. So like they made, I'm positive they made like an SR 125. I just don't know how old it is. Like if that's like a recent, you know what I mean? Because Zach's was not vintage, right?
No,
Zach's was like
it was like mid 2000s,
well, I am
late 2000s.
Way out on this one.
All right, so I mean, like I feel like that or a Vespa, like an older, Vespa two-stroke
Vespa's
scooter.
definite possibility. What was that? What was the hint again?
So I mean, a Vespa, like I feel like they would have made two-strokes. I guess at this point. We have all the information we probably have. Like any final guesses? I think like an Aprilia scooter would probably be.
I'm going with the Aprilia. I'm gonna go with the SR 125.
Okay, I'll say SR 50 scooter.
Okay,
and let's see if we're anywhere close. Oh, Patrick, you should have followed your Harley Hummer. Passion here. This was a 1974 Harley Davidson Z90. And Patrick, what can you tell us about mid-70s small displacement Harleys? Where were they imported from?
Those were imported from Italy, right?
Yeah. So this would have been a little Italian motorcycle that Harley Davidson would have rebadged.
I didn't even think about them, and I knew that too. I knew them. I knew that was a rebadged Italian bike. I think I talked myself out of it I was thinking that those were more, but I know they were around in the 50s, but they must have stayed around for quite a while, longer than I thought.
Yeah, the Aramachi era of Harley Davidson. Yeah. So that was there was a partnership in the 70s with Aramachi, and they brought in small displacement motorcycles with rebadging done, and I think once AMF came along, they sold off the Aramachi subsidiary there. So,
yeah, and I should have known that. I was almost there, and I talked myself out of it.
There you go. Well, for those of you listening at home, maybe there was someone out there that wasn't fooled the way that Patrick and I were, because typically when you think of a two-stroke street bike, single cylinder nonetheless, you're not thinking of Harley Davidson, but this was a 1974 Harley Davidson Z90, would have been manufactured by Aramachi in Italy and then imported into the United States with a Harley Davidson logo on the tank. Thank you to Tim for sending in such a unique engine sound. Tim sent us in a sound of his stock 1974 Harley Davidson Z90. Tim, do make sure you send us an email to highside, lowside at RevZilla.com with your address, preferred shirt size, and your Highside, Lowside shirt design that you'd like. And for those of you that want to play along with the engine sound guessing game, you can send us a clip of your motorcycle. We need the year, make, model, and mods. You want to get the bike firing up, and you want to give it a couple of good revs, let it idle for a little bit, and you too can play the engine sound guessing game by sending us your engine clip. That being said, we do have another t-shirt to give away. Patrick, you want to do guest honors here and read the t-shirt winner?
Yes.
So while Patrick is pulling up the high side, low side comment, I can read it too, Patrick, if you're having trouble finding it there. But you want to always make sure to please leave us a Apple Podcast review. Leave a comment over on Spotify. We try to read all the comments. Send an email to highside@RevZilla.com or drop a little note on YouTube, and you too can potentially have your comment read out loud. Did you find it?
I believe so. So we're talking about I am new to writing.
From Edward.
Yes. I'm new to writing. I got my license in Australia only a year ago at age 50. I own a Z650 and would like a second bike. I've been looking at Triumphs, W800S, and Moto Guzzi V7 Special, depending on the year. decides carb or EFI. I was watching your episode on modern classics. You recommend a carby bike. He says, are carbs unreliable and maintenance heavy? I am not very mechanically inclined. A mate has said the fully is way smoother.
I think it means fueling.
Fuely. Oh yeah, I'm not translating.
Yeah, you're trying to read Australian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put another shrimp on
I
the
feel
bottom.
like if I was reading, I should have read it with an accent. I probably would have got it.
Yeah, I did that. I did that in the first episode, and Lance Oliver was really not keen on having me continue by trying to read in an accent. So
he asked, is this true, or is it just the way he rides for him to find this? So basically what he's asking us there is like, he's not super mechanically inclined. Should he buy a carbureted bike or not?
Well, here's the deal. I think that this is perfect for yourself. And he's probably, when he's talking about the modern classics, he's probably referring to the fact that I have a Bonneville with carburetors on it. But Patrick, guest honors, your opinion about, some of these, still later model motorcycles, that have carburetors. Are carburetors unreliable and maintenance heavy, in your opinion?
So it's probably going to be more maintenance heavy long run than a fuel injected bike, but a carburetor can be very reliable. It comes with some caveats. Is the bike well maintained? A bike that's not well maintained, if you're buying a bike that's been sitting outside for a long time, or, it's hard starting, or somebody hasn't, they haven't maintained the bike in the wintertime as far as like fuel and it's gummed up the carburetor. Yeah, it's going to be very maintenance heavy. So this is kind of a little bit of a caveated question. In good maintenance order, a carburetor is very reliable. Again, does the bike have heavy modification? If you're buying a bike that has like an aftermarket like big bore and exhaust on it, where you're going to have to chase jetting, well, then you're getting a little bit more complicated. But if you're talking about a well-maintained stock motorcycle, a carburetor can be very reliable.
I think, some considerations for you, Edward. So my Bonneville's got 80,000 miles on it. I've rejetted the carburetor once. And when you say rejet a carburetor, you're putting in different little nozzles on the inside, which they have holes in them, and they allow either more or less fuel to come through. And you want to make sure that the carburetor, quote unquote, is jetted correctly for the amount of air you have coming in to mix with the fuel, and then the amount of exhaust that you have going out. So aside from rejetting the carburetor, when I changed the exhaust, I've done nothing to that motorcycle. Now, in the United States, we do have a situation that has occurred over the past, 10 years or so, where ethanol has been introduced into the fuel. And if you let ethanol infused fuel sit in carburetors for a while, like Patrick said, it can gum up, it can get sticky, and it can actually block your carburetor jets. So if you, in Australia, have ethanol in your fuel, you need to make sure not to let the bike sit for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. You would want to add an additive, or you would want to just drain the carburetors from the fuel. That would be a consideration, or get ethanol-free fuel. And then the only other consideration from carburetors is the elevation that you're at. Like if you were going through drastic elevation changes, like if I'm riding from Pennsylvania through the Rocky Mountains, the fueling that I have in the flatlands of Iowa might not be ideal for the heights of the Rocky Mountain passes. With fuel injection, and for the audience listening, when he talks about EFI, he's talking about electronic fuel injection. Electronic fuel injection has sensors that can regulate how much fuel based on elevation, based on temperature, things like that. Carburetors, you would manually have to change the jets in a carburetor. And depending on the bike, that's either easier or more difficult to do. You could also have to resync the carburetors if they get out of sync for a multi-cylinder bike. There's definitely more maintenance, but in my experience, once you have them dialed in for the majority of riding you're doing, they're really pretty spot on.
Yeah, my main two street bikes are both carbureted bikes, my FXR and my Shovelhead. And once I've got them dialed in, I literally have not touched them. They like I said, as long as you take into consideration that fuel and not letting them gum up, well, then you're going to be in good shape. And like you said, elevation changes. I'm not sure in Australia, like how much elevation he's going to be getting to, but again, that's a pretty a kind of isolated use case scenario. So I'm with you. They're, as long as they're well maintained, you're not going to have any problem with the carburetor. It's got a lot. There's a lot of carbureted bikes on the road that have run really, really well for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
I mean, in the lineage of motorcycles, fuel injection is still a fairly new thing.
I would say it sounds like your buddy says that the fueling could be way smoother. I think some of the issues that folks have run into with fuel injection, especially with some of the newer EPA regulations, is a lot of the manufacturers have them running really lean, and at times, there can be some rough spots at lower idle, and it's a little bit harder and more expensive to work that out with aftermarket tools. Whereas a carburetor, like I said, a couple of small little pilot jets or a change to your needle jets, and you're in a completely different situation. So, Edward, it's a great question. And I would say, as long as you're okay with maybe a little bit of time to get them dialed in and maybe a little bit more, maintenance than with fuel injection, a carbureted bike could be an excellent option for you. And also, congratulations on getting into motorcycling, no matter the age. I love to see that.
Yeah, 100%. We've run quite the spectrum here from Noah to Edward here.
Yeah. So, Edward, we're going to do our best to send you a Highside Lowside t-shirt to the land down under. Please do send us your mailing address and your preferred shirt size to highsidelowside@RevZilla.com, as well as which Highside Lowside design you would like, and we will get you squared away. And again, just a reminder, please do leave us a comment on YouTube, on Spotify, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love to hear from you, the audience. If you are looking to leave a more detailed email, or you want to donate an engine sound, or perhaps you want to put yourself up for, a guest on the next episode of the Motorcycle Dating Game, you can shoot us an email to highsidelowside@RevZilla.com. And with that, Patrick, any final thoughts from the discussion today?
You know what? It's great to see, other people's like motorcycle situations. Cause like I mentioned before, if you've been riding for a long time, you kind of get settled into your own, view of motorcycles and what you like. And that tends to, I think, narrow up a little bit because you've kind of been there and done that. And it's really cool to see other people's journeys and where they're at in like their motorcycle lifespan. It's very refreshing. Like you said, to see Edward at 50 and Noah at 7 and all these people's different, journeys. It kind of re-energizes you as somebody that's been in the motorcycle space for a long time.
100%. And speaking of motorcycle journeys, the question that I'm left with for you is, you're talking about this new bike build that you're doing. You typically build a bike every 12 to 18 months. You're pretty prolific when it comes to turning wrenches on motorcycles. When are we going to see the Patrick Garvin Dragon build? When are you going to build us a motorcycle that resembles some type of, like, could we get like an alligator build? Could you do like the alligator bike?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean like an eagle.
Is that on your bucket list? Could you do like the Eagle of Freedom with the talons coming out the front instead?
Yeah.
Holding the turn signals.
A couple of oh man, Robert.
Well, now that you've got that idea rolling around in your noodle, I am very excited to see. Flowing. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what you do with this build that will be debuting at Daytona this year. Until that, folks, without any further ado to Patrick's build, I think we've come to the end of another episode of Highside Lowside. Patrick, thank you so much for sitting in today and helping us fill Zach Quartz's seat.
Big shoes to fill. Thanks for having me, Spurge.
All right. Well, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for listening to another episode of Highside Lowside. We will see you next time.